And we are back, gents, with episode 2. So let's address the elephant in the room. We released a video last week and we didn't really have a proper introduction to anyone who's listening out there. We are still noobs at this, so please forgive us and bear with us. We are learning to get better. With that said, I am Michael Mendoza. To my left is my little brother, David.
Yowie wowie, what's going on, guys?
To my front, my bearded buddy, Izzy.
Yo, yo, yo.
To my man across from me is my good friend, David Gonzalez, aka Just G.
Hey, guys, what's up?
And you are listening to Our Side of the Story. Now, in today's episode, we want to find a proper way to end the Spooktober. And the perfect way to do that is to talk about horror movies. We've all seen a bunch of horror movies. We've all seen them as little kids. We've all liked them. There's some that were trash. There's some that were pretty good. Some that were artsy. Some were just, why were they existing? So today, in honor of the end of Spooktober, we want to talk about our favorite horror movies. Talk a couple of things about the movies that influence us, movies that we've seen, movies that have traumatized us, and whatnot. All right? And today, we can call this episode our Spook Special, hopefully the first of many. And I'm going to start off by talking about what is the first horror movie you've seen, and did it scare you as a little kid? So I'm going to start off with Izzy.
Yo, yo, yo. My first horror movie that I've seen was actually Child's Play. But what terrified me more was in the credits, the song that played. Like, I remember, I watched the movie and I was already, crapping my pants almost.
Right.
But then I was like, okay, this is terrifying. And, as a kid, then I became actually my favorite, what do you call that? Horror character? There's Jason, Freddy,
Yeah, iconic.
Michael Myers. Yeah, the icons. Yeah. Chucky's actually my favorite in comparison to the other ones, even though I do love.
I mean, what other little
Michael
kid out
Myers.
there wouldn't be terrified if their action figure or doll came back to life to
Yeah.
try to kill them?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's what. Yeah, I think that's honestly what it was. I think I had so many toys as a kid, and then seeing this movie, you kind of, I don't know.
Especially back then, a toy coming to life and actually being evil was not something you would see in cartoons or anything like that. It was more like taboo, I guess you could call it. So when Child's Play came out and actually switched it around, so everybody was just freaking out because it's not something that you would see every day. You're used to Transformers, Barbie, and all that kind of stuff back in the 90s. So that's one of the main reasons why I guess Child's Play was so impactful back then.
And I think another thing about it was that the reason why it was alive because it was a serial killer's soul in this doll. It was essentially that person. Because they have done horror movies before with killer puppets or dolls, or even Poltergeist, I believe, came out before Child's Play that had that scary clown scene. But I think with Child's Play, it's the fact that this thing was just had a life on its own and was just, slashing people the way it was.
I think that's what it was, is watching a little kid run from a doll. I think that's what's terrifying. And also that entire setup, because you don't see him active for a little while, because they're setting up the mother and the little boy in the movie. You don't see Chucky. You see the guy.
Right. Yeah.
I forgot his name.
I think it was Charles Lee Ray.
Yeah. Charles Lee Ray. You see him, going to the doll, but you don't see the doll being Chucky yet, creeping around. But that entire setup when she realizes there's no batteries in him and he's talking, that entire setup when I was a kid was the most terrifying thing in the world. I literally was.
It was.
I didn't know what I was. Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I was terrified.
It was a really good jump scare. I know exactly what you're talking about because the mom from Seven Heaven was just like, "Talk to me, darn it!" And all of a sudden the doll just starts talking, starts trying to beat her up, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, and then his teeth become human teeth.
Yeah,
that's terrifying.
Yeah. He started to have real human actual facial features.
Yeah,
you could tell. I was like, all right, he's morphing. So to speak. Yes. And how old were you when you first saw this movie?
Bro, I can't even tell you. I must have been 6, maybe 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
Yeah, I was young.
How did you even watch this movie to begin with?
I mean, because TV, back then TV they used to play these movies. Now everybody's kind of soft. So like you can't really play
That's
stuff like
good.
this on TV. So when I was like 5 or 6, like this was on TV, like HBO. Remember HBO was
Right.
a big thing. So I used to just watch it, and that came on. Like I think I was watching probably like some action movie, and then that came on, and then I was like, "Oh, this is cool. It's a horror movie," and I wasn't supposed to watch horror movies.
Right.
And then
But you knew it was a horror
I knew,
movie.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I knew it was a horror movie, and I wound up loving it.
Nice.
I mean, hating it, but loving it.
As the time went on.
Yeah.
It's funny you talk about Child's Play because as a little boy, I think I was at least maybe 7 or 8 years old. I remember seeing a commercial for a Child's Play movie, but at the time it wasn't Child's Play. It was Bride of Chucky. Now, I can tell you to this day, that is a stupid, hilarious Chucky movie, Child's Play movie, because there's nothing horrifying about it, so to speak. But at the time when you're a little boy, I remember I was like in my mom's room watching TV, and this commercial comes on, and the lights were off. It was nighttime. All I saw was this shredded up, like scarred doll face, cursing and wielding a gun and a knife. And kid you not, at school the next day, I couldn't function correctly. I had to I sat myself in the hallways. You guys can laugh. I don't care. You guys can. I was sitting in the hall. I couldn't do anything in class. My teacher was like, Mikey, what's wrong with you? I was like, the doll coming for me. I said something so stupid like that. But that freaked me out. Ironically, though, that was not my first horror film, though. And I'll get to that in a few. But now I'm going to pass it to David, my brother. David, what was your first horror movie that scarred you as a child?
Oh, you know this very well because he was the one that had to endure a very long night of me constantly waking him up to say, let me sleep in your bed, please." And eventually I had to run to my mom's room and sleep in her bed because it was just that bad.
Dito.
The one movie that I can remember while I was 10 years old that scared me the most was the 2003 movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that remake was very interesting compared to the old one because for some reason that one was just super dark, super depressing. My dad wanted me to watch it and kind of man up a bit, and man, oh man, did it scare me. I have to say a lot of the scenes, definitely when it showed the character of Leatherface just kind of going on a killing spree. A lot of the scenes that happened inside the house, there was just so many things while I was watching it that just kept coming into my head more and more throughout the night. I was terrified. I kept looking at my doorway to see if something was going to just run in and try to kill me.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So it was very terrifying. Very terrifying.
So have you ever seen the original?
So it only took me a few years after I got over the phobia of it to actually watch the original.
Oh, wow.
Which was actually really interesting because if I had to look back now, I actually preferred the original over the remake. I just felt like the remake was just a little too dark. There were some scenes that I just remember watching that it was kind of bland, but the remake, for some reason, the scene itself with the family sitting together for dinner, and it was just a lot of things happening all in that one moment where the main character was sitting there and just frightened herself to death. But yeah, I would actually prefer the old one compared to the new one.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned it being dark because that's not like an adjective. You're saying it was literally a dark film because you could barely see anything in that.
Oh
film.
no, I really mean
Which always
yeah.
bothered me.
By the
about
way,
that remake.
so the one specific scene I truly remember, I laughed at the most. Now that I think about it, was the scene where she runs into this meat factory almost and was hiding
Like
in a locker. It was a slaughterhouse,
Yeah.
yes. And while she was hiding for a good maybe 10 minutes, you could not see anything because she just kept hiding, and all you see these little faint visuals of her hiding, and I could not tell where they were. I could not tell what was happening. I don't even know if Leatherface even showed up or not. But it was just hilarious to me because I said to myself, at this point now, I'm like, can someone just turn a light on?
For a second, I thought you were talking about Game of Thrones. The war. Couldn't see anything.
A huge battle scene. Someone could not light one little fire to see what they were doing.
Exactly.
Who they're aiming for. You know what the other problem with movies like horror movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as a whole, even as a, I don't want to say as a franchise, I think as talking about the first one as well as the remake, because the 2003 remake was a remake of that the very old original one. the fact that they advertise this as based on true events, like, how do you guys feel when they do stuff like that? Because you're talking, because we're already having a kid who's already terrified about this. Let's be real, Leatherface is terrifying because he's a big man with a skin face, and with this big dirty chainsaw going around. The noises he was making, like, he already looks gritty and grimy as a whole. But the fact that they're saying based on true events, like, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't afraid of that movie when I saw it too. But what did kind of freak me out was, wait, this is true. Are you telling me there's a real serial killer out there hacking up these people? Looks like this?
Exactly.
So I actually, now that I think about it, I remember looking it up, and I found the actual person that was supposedly the one that inspired Leatherface, which is hilarious because it was nothing compared to what the movie did about this chain wheeling killing man that was just going around and just cutting up people and all this stuff. This was basically based on a guy who all he did was just have a bunch of bones and some body parts in his house and just made things out of those people's skin. Nothing about a chainsaw, nothing about some deformed person. It was just an old man who just had a lot of problems.
Oh, the old man, the guy from the family?
Yes. Apparently, I remember his name was Ed Gein or something like that.
Oh, the famous serial killer.
The famous
that
serial
was the
killer.
inspiration. Yeah, that was the inspiration.
Yeah, I feel like based off of like true stories, those never scared me for some reason. I mean, I don't know. I think the fictional and like the idea of, I don't know, something being so ridiculous as a kid was more scary than something that was real life. Whereas
all of our imaginations are like reaching to like are going far and beyond.
Yeah, like now I'm obviously as an adult, anything that can potentially be real, like a psychological horror or something that's legit, then that's what's more terrifying now. But as a kid, you're, like you said, your imagination's all over the place. So like Paranormal Activity, when those came out, that was the fad, was based on a true story, and it was like, okay. To me, it was a little ridiculous because I was like, now everything is based off a true story. Like, it's becoming too much.
Let's hold it right there because, Izzy, you and I know very well that fad was big. The found footage horror based on a true story, making it seem like it was real. That didn't start with Paranormal Activity. You know what I'm going to talk about.
Oh, boy.
That started with the very iconic cult classic Blair Witch Project back in 1999. Even with their marketing strategy, at that time people thought these were real 3 college students who were disappeared and gone.
Yep.
Everyone listening, I sat with my boy Izzy here at his house. I think it was nighttime. I was like, let's watch a really good found footage film. We sat down, we watched the movie. I look at Izzy, and I think at the time you were kind of a fan or was interested with Paranormal Activity. That's why you were like, maybe the found footage genre as a whole. You were.
I wasn't a fan, but I did like the second Paranormal. No, I love the first one. The first one was actually,
the first one is actually very good. It's the best one out of all of
them. Then I remember I watched the second one, and I was like, this is all right. Yeah, but this is becoming a little bit much with this found footage and based on a true story, because the actress in the second Paranormal Activity was also, I was like, yo, they're saying it's based off of a real thing, and they said that they found the tapes and this is what happened and these are the tapes, and I was looking at the actress and I'm like, wait, that's the same lady that played one of the wives in Sons of Anarchy. I was like, that is the same lady.
So you know it's fake.
Fake. I'm like, why? And then at that point, I was like, this is a little ridiculous. And then you were like, okay, I have a really good horror movie. Have you ever seen
Blair Witch?
The Blair Witch Project? And I was like, nah, but I heard so much about it. So then,
yeah, we go to watch it, and the movie ends, and I'm already like, whew, that was really good. And I look at Izzy, and I'm like, yo, what'd you think? And Izzy looks at me and just goes, bro, that wasn't scary. I was like, what are you talking about? Okay, the movie, I will admit, it doesn't really hold. It doesn't really stand a lot. It's not. I wouldn't say it's too timeless. Yeah. Nowadays, it might not work. The scares over there might not work in today's horror genre, this kind of generation. But like at the time, like even when they were in their tent and you heard the noises and the kid laughing, and the freaking stick figures that would just show up throughout the day, and time and space messing with them with the is it daylight now? Why isn't the sun coming up? Like that used to freak me out with that movie, especially near the end when they went to the house of Rustin Parr and they're just being chased or they're looking for Josh only to find out he's been like jadunzoed.
Yeah, I think though that a lot of that, like me being like that wasn't scary, was because so many horror movies have come out at that point, so you become a little desensitized.
Yeah, that's true.
To what horror is.
And improve. The scares get improved over time.
Yeah, the scares improved.
Hopefully,
you know, the films improve. Everything is improved now. So I think that's. I mean, there's another movie that it's your movie.
Yes, we're about to get into
so that movie is like where that can be real.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying.
Which I'm glad you said that, because that's a great transition to my and Gonzalez's film. Our film is the same. We talked before. It's the same film. Talk about real. Yeah, let's talk about real horror. Because our movie is, what is it, Gonzalez? Say it.
The Exorcist, the first one.
Yes, the first one. I did not care for the sequels. I still will not watch the sequels. It's not interesting to me, honestly. I'm sorry. But the first one is so iconic. I saw that movie, G. I think I said to you, I was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in my house. And I too, like, okay, similar to Izzy's story, like it was just on TV. I just remember walking to the living room. My dad was watching this movie. I saw a priest and someone on a bed and another priest. And I was telling myself, again, 8 years old, I'm not really thinking logically here. But I sit next to my dad on the couch and I'm like, oh, what are you watching? And all of a sudden, this demon face comes out of nowhere. And it's freaking Regan, the character Reagan, possessed by a Pazuzu. First of all, the makeup job on that, like at the time, oh my god,
it was ahead of its time.
It really was ahead of its time. The effects that they use. I mean, I don't care about the gross out effects. To be honest, I didn't even see the whole movie. To this day, I still haven't seen this whole movie. And I told myself I will not watch it again, because really I'm kind of over it now. And I'm like, let me not try to traumatize myself, even though I'm 27 now, still wouldn't care to watch it. But at the time, I remember I was so traumatized because that whole sequence of her trying to be exorcised by the two priests, I did see near the end though. So like, I don't know how I ended up watching that whole climactic ending, but I can tell you that same night, maybe around midnight or so, I remember waking up having these horrible nightmares. And so let me tell you this. I was scared. I couldn't really get off my bed. Me and my brother shared a room. I was on the top bunk, I remember. Yeah, we had a bunk bed. And I was too afraid to even go to my parents' room because it was dark. And I didn't want to be in the dark. I didn't want to get, killed by this demon or possessed. And talk about real. Demon possession is real, guys. Yeah. The supernatural is real. I'm going to say it right here, right now.
Indeed.
I've heard so many stories that it happened to their friends and family. They know people who know people. And it happens, and that's why I don't messes with The Exorcist. But moving forward,
no messes with The Exorcist.
I don't. Oh wow, that actually just rhymed. Spit that bars, bro.
Oh my
Call
God.
me Kanye.
Hashtag.
Jesus is King, Part 2.
Oh God. But what I will say was that to finish that story, because I was in my room, I couldn't just cry the whole night, so I decided to start praying. And at that time, I was going to church. Now this is what's also really funny. What I used to cope and try to defeat that fear at that moment for me to go to sleep, you would think kids at my age would be exposed to like VeggieTales, maybe try to recite Bible lessons or Bible verses from that. That wasn't me. As a child, I wasn't watching VeggieTales.
Yeah, me neither.
Instead, what I was watching was Touched by an Angel.
Amen.
I don't know if you guys know that show. Yeah, that show is old. That was the Christian stuff I was watching at the time. And I remember one episode where a character was like being persecuted, or I don't know, being, I guess persecuted is the right word, being persecuted by the devil. And that end of that episode, he like banishes the devil away, or like, I don't know, like he called upon like the Holy Spirit. He was like, in the name of Jesus, he was just like, depart from me, like get away from me, don't come near me evermore, like that. But like he did this big thing with his hands. No lie, after seeing that, I did the same exact thing in my bed as a little kid.
Amen.
And I mean, it worked for the most part, but when I think about it now, I was like, you didn't need to do that.
Hallelujah,
What's wrong
church.
with you, clown?
Hallelujah, church. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes.
Listen, Jesus saves, man. But that's what helped me cope with that movie after watching it. But Gonzalez, what was your nightmarish?
My experience was, well, I bumped into my brother who came in later at night to the house. He wanted to like watch some soccer game, but he was changing the channels. I must have been like 10, 11.
Okay.
And he stops, goes to get food, and then The Exorcist is playing, right? And the scene that's playing is when she starts going down the stairs, but with her hands.
Oh, the spider walk.
The
Yeah.
the spider walk, exactly.
Oh no.
And then she spits out blood when she
yeah.
gets to the bottom. And that completely freaked me out. I was like screaming and everything. My mom was like all upset, like, what happened? Why are you screaming and all of this? And started like actually yelling at my brother for putting that on, knowing that I'm like a kid at that point. Then later that night, all I could hear is just steps, like do 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 do.
Stop.
Do, do, do. Obviously, it's my mind playing games on me because I was so terrified from just that one scene that's all I could hear that night, and I was waking up my mom every maybe 30 minutes the entire night. And then to make it worse, the next day I had to go to school.
Oh boy.
So my brother had this habit of trying to scare me all the time. So the lights were still off because I would wake up at like 5 a.m. to get ready. Everything was still dark outside, so lights were off and all that. So out of the corner of my eye, I just see someone like running down the hallway. I'm like, hey. So I'm like, I decide to just go to the bathroom, and out of nowhere, my brother just touches my back and goes, "Hey!" And I'm like, "Ah!"
Wow.
Screaming. And again,
horrifying.
I've never seen my mom so upset in my life. That she went after my brother. If my brother ran out of the house, my mom went after him because she got scared too of me.
God.
So that was my experience because of that one scene from The Exorcist.
I can't even see your mom upset. She's such a nice lady.
Yeah,
it's a rare thing. And then a few days later, I remember hearing the theme song for The Exorcist.
Oh yeah,
because they were still playing. Yes, they would play trailers and TV and all that. And as soon as I would hear like the first note, I would start freaking out and trembling.
Goosebumps would come in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would need to get out, and people would like bother me with like on a cell phone or something like that, playing it. And I'm like, nope. I need to like leave because remember that movie was also one of those that was based on a true story.
Yep.
Was that real? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
It was.
Okay.
Of course.
Obviously, they exaggerated to make it more appealing.
I thought it was based on a book, like a novel.
No, it was based on a true story.
So another thing too is I remember one time I played it. I was on Snapchat and I was like scrolling through.
Mm-hmm.
This is when I had Snapchat. I'm 24 years old. Come on now. Anyways, I had Snapchat. I'm scrolling through, and that song, I guess someone put it on Snapchat, and this guy was like, "Nope, turn it off now, please, enough." And we were in church we were chilling in church, man. And he's like, "No, turn it off, bro. That's it, no more." He's like getting up, and I'm like, "Okay, let's just turn it off." And then later on, I had to ask him, like, "Bro, what was that about?" He's like, "Yo, I'm traumatized. I hate that movie. I'll never watch that movie." And then I think me and you, Mike, tried to watch it. And,
that's right.
And we were we were so bored.
Yeah.
We were like actually bored watching it because we were like, let's fast forward to the good parts. And
which is just like the very end.
It's honestly altogether the good parts are probably 15 minutes.
15 minutes, yeah.
Because most of the movie's a lot of build up. Like the one scene that I watched from that movie that I was like, wow, this is actually really good, was when the priest shows up to the house and she's looking towards the window and you can see she's scared.
Yeah.
And I was like,
she knows, this man of God is coming to me.
Exactly, man.
I was like, yo, that is actually really scary. That was actually a really well done scene. So
yeah, that was good. Yeah, the way it ended and everything, like I was like, okay, it's over now. Closer. That's it. Have a good night. I remember after that.
Obviously, nowadays, if you like, we're older now.
Yeah.
The makeup doesn't look good in today's world. It actually looks really fake. If you compare it to
like the vomiting scene,
yeah.
I mean, doesn't look. It was practical effects. They didn't have much.
Back then it worked well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think especially with a movie like that, practical effects, especially at that time with a lot of different movies, look so much better than the CGI I see nowadays.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
Honestly, you're not wrong. Like, look at I was gonna say it. Look at what's that movie with the aliens? It has
Is it a horror movie?
Kurt Russell.
Oh, The Thing.
The Thing.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Wow,
That's a really
that
good
was
movie.
a good one with.
That's a
practical
really good
effects.
Talking
movie.
about the use of practical effects.
Exactly.
John Carpenter behind the camera. Yeah. No.
That is a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like it's okay to be said. Like, that is a movie that I think everyone who's a horror fan should watch. I mean, if you're not like I don't know, if you get skeeved out, then don't watch it, I guess. But it's a good movie.
It's a good horror movie, but it's also like, a very good body horror.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't really stomach a lot of body horrors and stuff. And I know like John Carpenter and I want to say maybe David Cronenberg are like the kings of body horrors, along with like Japanese masters of directors that are out there,
All that disgusting stuff that I cannot take.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that either.
Yeah, the last body horror movie I remember watching and actually being like, okay, I'm actually never watching one of these again, was the remake for Evil Dead.
2013, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That movie, it's a good movie, but I was like, this is a little bit too much. But what got me was the scene where the girl's hiding behind, like, it's the end. And the girl's hiding in like what looks like a shack, I think it was. And the demon has a machete, so she's like crawling around and she stabs through the cabin or shack, and it goes through the girl's kneecap.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm done. I was like, I'm absolutely done.
That's what did it for you?
Yep.
Moving forward, I think the moral of this particular conversation is parents, do not let your kids watch horror movies when they're so young.
Factual.
When they should be watching like Barney and like other like appropriate things,
Put them on Bible, man.
Yeah, let them watch VeggieTales, Touched by an Angel, and Bible Man. That would be better. All right, cool. That was awesome. Now, the next question I want to ask each other is, what is the best horror movie you've seen this year or in recent years? And I think I want to take it with Izzy.
Okay. I think we can all kind of agree. Hereditary.
Oh yes, that is my answer too.
Yes, your answer.
Yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, so let me preface this. Right before we went to go see the movie, the four of us went to go see it. My dad had just finished seeing it. He lived around the area at the time. He was like, okay, I just saw the movie and I will never watch that movie again.
I remember.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, we might be going to see the best movie ever. Like, the best horror movie ever. Because my dad, like, he loves horror movies. And I'm like, okay. Like, and when he told me that, he's like, it's terrifying. And then, we watch our reviews and stuff like that. And people are saying, like, yo, this movie's actually really, really good. It's scary. But it's not the type of scary where it's, like, in your face, jump scares. Yeah. And I think the movie has, like, maybe one jump scare. Maybe two. And they're earned.
I can remember,
and they're earned. So when we watched it, I remember like sitting down and I was like, yo, I'm kind of nervous. Like, and usually to go watch a horror movie, I don't really I get excited.
Yeah.
But for Hereditary, I was actually a little nervous. So sorry, burp. So I remember like being like nervous, and then like the opening scene is the upside down house. It was very casual. But then I think what got me, like what made the movie terrifying, was the little girl dying. And then
spoiler alert. Yeah.
Oh crap.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I should
have said spoiler alert.
Yeah, you should say spoiler.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, when the little girl died, I was like, okay, like we're in for something kind of ridiculous. Like ridiculous in a good way. Because I remember being like, they have the guts to kill off a little girl with no problem in the movie. Granted, they didn't technically show it, even though it was very heavily implied.
I mean, I think what you mean by that is that they didn't really show. Well, no, I think they did actually, because you saw the head make the impact.
I'm remembering it off the top of my head now. Yeah. It's like, yeah, it was like very quick, and then but that scene where the brother just stays in the car.
Oh my god!
And he's so high out of his mind because he was just smoking. He was smoking weed with his friends at a party, which that's another thing. Why did the mother let the girl go with her teenage son to a party.
She didn't know it was going to be that kind of party because she even asked the guy. The guy was like, "I'm going to a party," and she goes, "What kind of party is it?" And I believe he said something like, "Oh, it's like a birthday party, my friend's birthday party, yada yada yada."
Yeah,
and that's why she was like, "Okay, no, go take your sister," because I think she was.
She was trying to.
Friends.
Yeah, no, she was trying to put the sister on him so that she's like, "Oh, so you don't do anything? Take your sister with you." But it's like, okay. He's a teenager. What the heck are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so when
a little rebellious, you know, he's not gonna be, you know, thinking about, I have to be a good boy for my.
Exactly. So I mean, but anyways, going back, I think that whole movie was just terrifying because there was no jump scares. It was all like something like you would have to see it in a corner of the room, and it's very.
There was a subtlety build up of tension and atmosphere throughout the whole movie. Especially, I know what you mean. Even after like when the girl got smoked. Like that's what that only shocked me because the marketing for that movie I thought
was based around the little girl,
like something was haunting that girl because we knew from the trailers that there was a loss in the family, but I didn't think that was going to be an add-on to adding the grief of the mother, which by the way, Toni Collette's performance in that,
oh yes,
one
of her best.
Yeah,
one of her best.
No, yeah. And I had to look her up again, and I had no idea she actually got nominated for her role in M. Night Shyamalan's movie The Sixth Sense, which is another horror, which I thought that was great that she was actually recognized for. So in my mind, you know, I heard people say, "Oh, this should have been Oscars, should have been Oscars." In my mind, I was like, I don't know if I would say that, but when I saw that in her part of her accolades, I was like, okay, hold on, maybe she could have been like, seen for that.
She's very solid, and she sold every bit of what she was going through, and like even the trauma she was going through with her mother and the creepiness with the mother too, like being in a cult, like that was, I mean, not that because we knew at some point it was going to have something to do with the cult.
They started showing us signs and clues in the movie that there's something cultish going on.
But I mean, just even like the sleepwalking parts where she was dreaming that she was burning her son alive, like, but she was actually sleepwalking. They insinuated that she actually did that. So when they actually showed her dreaming, talking to her son, and all of a sudden they look mad sweaty, and we're like, why are they so sweaty? Right? I think you were like, yo, look how sweaty they are.
It was a really good shot that they were taking with that scene. Really good angles and the direction of that.
I just think the whole movie though was very solid, and I think that's definitely probably the scariest movie I've seen, just because the psychological part of it, and also it's real. Like that type of stuff is actually not fake.
So. Yeah, I think the idea of being grief and the horror of what trauma can do to can affect members of the family. You know, that's why I was telling Gonzalez. I remember sitting in the chair, going like, "Yo, don't let this movie like." You have to be careful like who we would recommend this movie to, because I'm like, there's a lot of like, because I think there was even a bit of mental illness going on in that family. I think the mother too, and a bit of, because I felt almost depressed watching that. And I know people will be like, well, why are you watching a movie I don't want to watch a movie that's like so depressing. I'm like, no, then maybe this is not the movie for you. But I would say like I did appreciate like, because the acting, the performances from everyone, especially Toni Collette. The atmosphere as a whole was great, and I like the idea of grief being used as a device, a concept for a horror film. I think that's a perfect way to explore that.
It was definitely one of those movies that the point of the movie was to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yep.
It succeeded like tenfold to do that, because I told you throughout the movie, I think several times, I feel weird right now. And like
I felt uncomfortable too.
Unease, like negativity and all that. And that was the point, that the movie wanted to make you feel those things.
That's art.
It is.
No,
it is.
Honestly, like,
but to quote you are definitely right. It's not a movie for it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
I told you guys at the end, like, I'm not watching this again, because there was nothing positive. Even at the end, it's like,
it ends on a super somber note. Yeah.
Like and also I'm not too much into like full on the demonic kind of horror films. I like
the ones
more
involving demons.
I like more psychological, that makes you like in suspense and all that. That's what I like. But Hereditary is probably the best horror film in recent years. But again,
was that your answer too, Gonzalez?
No, for me, Like my favorite one is Insidious 2.
Right.
Because
I love that movie.
it plays with that, like the suspense, and it's more psychological, but it's not full on just a cult and demons and all of this nonsense. It also tied perfectly into the first one.
Which is why I thought I can't really count Insidious 2 like a genuine sequel. To me, I feel like it's just a part 2 of
Insidious.
I feel like that one,
Yeah,
Insidious, Insidious 2, Chapter 2 are the same movie.
Yeah, like they pulled the Tarantino. Like
Yeah,
how
exactly.
Tarantino did Kill Bill 1 and Kill Bill 2 was technically supposed to be
It's
one
same
movie.
Yeah.
That's how this felt. I heavily agree with that.
Yeah.
I also love the cast in that movie. I think they all had tremendous chemistry. It's unreal. I love also, again, you mentioned it, that it's technically one movie, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, but I love how they started including certain aspects to explain things from, what's the name of the main character? Not the kid, but the father. What's his name?
Patrick Wilson. That's all I can remember. The actor.
Yeah, his character, of how he was also struggling with the same thing. His kid starting to struggle. I love the fact that it wasn't just his kid and it started there. It actually started with him. It was like a
curse,
like a generational thing. So
I
that
guess,
made it profound.
I guess it was Hereditary.
Clever.
Why would you do that?
What? Wow, David. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good point, Gonzalez. David, what about you? What was your best horror movie you've seen in recent years, or was it this year?
Hereditary is definitely on the top. There are a few that I feel like I've watched lately that I felt like were pretty good. If I really had to kind of put my finger on one of them, it would have to definitely be yeah, I don't know, because Hereditary, I mean, there was just not only the horror in it, but some of the scenes with the acting was just so great, especially the dinner scene.
Yeah.
The tension that was in there.
Okay, pause. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that is horrific. Like just that entire scene of seeing a family just being completely torn apart.
Yeah,
that is
especially like what happened just before.
Yeah, like
this is their first. I assume this was their first encounter after.
Yeah, and it was literally like she was like, "Oh, what you did? Would you like pretty much pointing the finger?"
Yeah,
and he's like, "What about you?" He was like, just that turnaround.
Like you carry the, like I'm not carrying the blame for this. Like you're part of the blame.
You're part of the blame, yeah.
And that's the kind of horror that I personally enjoy. There was nothing like demonic about it. It was just actually them.
It was real,
dealing with something that happens in real life, like again, grief.
Yeah.
So that scene, I think it's my favorite one in that movie.
That's
because it was so intense.
Nice.
But it's something that happens in real life.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, that's where the true horror is. Okay, so with that said, let's move forward. Now with all that said, and this was a question that Izzy just asked us before we started recording, so I think this is going to be kind of fun to talk about. But can you guys tell me what's a non-horror movie that you've guys seen that had a scene that terrified you? Do you guys have any?
I actually have one.
You got one, right?
I have one definitely in mind. It's so funny enough that we were watching it recently. The movie that was to me was the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze.
Interesting.
And I have to say, the scenes that involved the demons coming out and dragging people to hell. I know there was a horror movie based on that, dragging to hell, but I don't know about you, but hearing those groans and the screeching sounds those creatures made while you were getting dragged, that freaked me out every single time I watched it. I got goosebumps from right arm to left arm, and I was freaking out all the way.
Yeah, because I was watching that today too, and I was like, yo, I don't know how I wasn't, because I saw Ghost also at a young age, but I was never terrified of it. If anything, I was more like a little bit, I don't want to say completely traumatized, but I was like bothered, I'll say, was with the death scene of the main villain in that movie, because he got impaled by a giant glass shard. But yeah, the shadow demons coming out, like, I do remember as a kid, I was like, is that the way you know if you're going to heaven or hell or not? If demons come after you, if they don't, you're cool, you're chilling.
Yeah,
but if
right.
they do, if you hear like that's how the shadow demons sound.
That's a good
in that
point.
movie. No, that was good. That did freak me out too. That was a good choice. My choice was actually the demon children in the Passion of the Christ.
Yep.
Oh,
my
yes.
God.
So
Oh,
it's
yes.
it's bad enough that we have to endure the torture and the
Yes.
persecution of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You know, that was like as a kid, like I was like that movie made me cry. You know,
Yeah.
and it was bad enough to enjoy that. But then out of nowhere, I thought this was out of nowhere when we see Judas after he already did his betrayal and everything. He's like, I think he already gave away, try to return the 30 pieces of silver.
Yeah.
And they didn't care for it, so he's just
He like
moping.
threw it at them.
He threw it at them, right? Like I think this was happening after that. He threw it at them. He's running. He's like moping about the situation, and these two little kids start bothering him, start pestering him, and he's like, "Get away, get away!" And at one moment, he grabs one of the kids, and the kid's like little boy's face just transformed to this old man. And I remember going, ugh, like next to my mom and dad. And on top of that, the other kid that was with him bites him, and then he starts laughing, and his eyes totally morphed into goat's eyes. Which, by the way, sheep or goats, they're creepy looking animals. Can I just say
Yes.
that? They're terrifying. They're like, why are their pupils so like the cornea is so horizontal like that? Why, God? Why did you make them look like that? That's like that bothers me to the core. That shakes me to the core.
I mean, even the witch, the goat and the witch is terrifying.
Oh, the goat. Well, that I have to give credit to Robert Eggers for giving us such such a horrifying animal.
Yeah.
In that movie, and it was just, and it didn't do nothing like the movie. The animal does something. Let me not say that, but the fact that we were led to believe it was normal. What the animal
exactly.
Does. Yeah. It's a good point. But yeah, I'll never those demon kids.
Never again.
I'm not messing with that. What about you, Izzy?
Mine, believe it or not, maybe it's a cop out, but not really. Because it actually has to do with what we just talked about, like the real, like the real life part of it. Mine is Whiplash, 2014. Even though the Babadook came out at that time, which that's a horror, but Whiplash is not a horror.
Yeah, we're talking about non-horror movies.
Yeah.
Scary scenes.
I think what made that one, first of all, as a musician, I think seeing someone be completely picked apart like that was kind of tough to watch. Like the things he was saying, the way he was breaking them down, even like when he had Connolly, the other guy, come in, and he was a terrible drummer. Yeah. And he had him come in, but it was just to mess with the guy, Neiman. Just to mess with Neiman, forgot the actor's name, to mess with him, his character. I was like, why are you doing this to this poor kid, bro? And even like the way he was messing with him when he first showed up to the class, like he's like, yeah, you know what? Just we're gonna do it at a slow tempo. We're gonna be normal about it. Just play what you can. Just do your thing. The kid's playing the tempo. He's like, okay, you know what? That's not my tempo. This goes on for like eight or nine more times. He's like, oh, that's not my tempo. Let's just start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just keeps going. Then at one point he lets him play, and just hurls a chair at him.
Yeah, like he's so sick and tired.
And I'm like, you were just super nice like 30 seconds ago. Like, that's horrible. And he goes, and he's pretty much like telling him, I want you to tell me, were you rushing or were you dragging? Then he's coming up to him like viciously, starts smacking him. And I'm like, this is a horrible, horrible human being. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, I think it's more like the psychological, because you also see through time when he's tells the three drummers to play at a certain speed, and they cannot do it, and he starts making the entire band stay there till like, I think it was like 2:00 in the morning. Yeah, or it was like 2:00 in the morning, like, and then like you see, there's a slow-mo part where the Neiman is literally walking because he's so defeated. Yeah, like he did it. He got the part that he was supposed to get, but he was so defeated. And at that point, you're like, okay, like this guy is horrible. So again, I think just the reality of that, and that it's exaggerated, because we've also talked to a couple of musicians that they went to school and they've seen, like with their professors. They've seen professors like that.
There are people. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, it's okay.
Because I think what makes that movie stand out is just the strive of perfection, the strive of the craft, the art of the craft, and the journey and the emotional trauma that goes to being the best. You know.
Yeah, and I think at the end he even says that, he goes, I really just wanted to get the best out of all my musicians. And there was even one part where he finds out that a musician that used to be his student died. And he didn't even care about the guy as a person.
Yeah.
He cared about the guy as a musician.
Like he wasn't valuing the life, the human life.
He valued the talent.
The talent. That's what it is.
And I was like, that is so like
that's a monstrous being
yeah,
right there. Yeah.
Like, but right after that is when he starts making the three guys try to gain or try to earn that starting part, and he just completely is killing the three of them, and they're bleeding, and he even like there's one part where Neiman gets the part, and there's blood all over that. He says, okay. He goes, extras, wipe the blood off my drum set. And that was it. The band starts to play, and that was the scene. And I'm like, this is horrible. Again, I guess as a musician, I could relate to it in a sense, even though by the grace of God, I never had to deal with that. But I think it was just the reality of that, and that being something that's real is what made it terrifying.
Gotcha. That was good. Yeah, I did enjoy Whiplash for what it was. But yeah, I do agree that like that is one teacher I never want to have. Gonzalez, what was your movie?
I actually don't have one.
You don't have one?
No. I guess it's because out of the four of us, I'm maybe the one that's not into horror as much. So maybe I don't think of other movies that could be horror even when they're not.
Oh, okay.
But I do relate a lot actually to Whiplash.
Yeah, you're a drummer.
You're the drummer. That's
yeah,
why.
exactly.
He's like, what do I know?
So,
I'm just a drummer.
I know what it's like to be.
It's not quite my tempo.
I know that. I know what it's like to stop midway during a song, whether it's worship or in another setting. I know what it's like where you think you aced the audition and then you just get ripped. So I guess we can all agree that real life is horrific, can be horrific, even more so than the exaggerated and gory stuff that we see now in most horror movies.
And I agree with that. That's been my stance on horror as a whole. Like, there's nothing more horrifying than reality itself.
Yeah, something that you know could actually happen is what is so scary.
Which throws me off why we haven't had a horror movie about a serial killer Uber driver. How is that not a thing?
I'm sure there is an independent film out there.
You wouldn't be surprised.
A direct to DVD.
Okay, so before that was really good, guys. I had fun talking to you. So before we end, I just wanted to ask you guys real quick, is there any horror movie coming out that you're mostly anticipated for, or maybe this year?
I have something, but it came. Oh well, okay, yes, actually, I do. Now that it just popped in my head.
Nice.
Lighthouse.
I really want to see that too.
Yes, and that I hear is a psychological horror as well.
Yeah.
So go figure. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like we're talking about this. You know,
that touches isolation and these two guys. I can't wait for that too.
Yeah, that look and come on, Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson. It's like, and honestly, I don't have my doubts with Robert Pattinson. I did, especially when he was cast as Batman. I was like, of course. Oh my God. Why?
You and the half of the world.
Yeah. But I think like seeing him in a couple of other things and hearing where he's at now as an actor, I think, especially with Lighthouse, I'm excited.
What about you, David?
So if I had to decide what horror movie I'm actually looking forward to, it would definitely be the New Mutants. I think it's going to be definitely something interesting because it is a superhero movie, but it's actually, I think, one of the first superhero horror films that Marvel's doing that actually has a great cast, and I think it's going to be something really interesting to watch.
See, I agree with that as far as the interesting part of it, that they're crossing over the genres of superhero and horror films. I think it is definitely doable. Hello, look at Spawn, for example.
Yeah.
But my only worry about the New Mutants is that because it was like the last X-Men, the Fox movie into the X-Men universe, and it still hasn't been released yet, and they were reshooting a bunch of scenes and changing up the stories, I'm afraid we're going to have another disaster like Dark Phoenix. But who knows? I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Like, I want to enjoy this movie because I like the concept. But we'll see. Okay. What about you, Gonzalez?
I'm actually looking for Dr. Sleep.
Okay. You know what?
Because
me and you are best friends.
You guys are ridiculous.
It's my answer too.
You guys are ridiculous.
I agree. I'm so hyped for Dr.
The trailer
Sleep.
looks so good, and
Yep.
I love Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
No,
like
Obi-Wan. Get it straight, bro.
this guy.
hello there.
I am so super psyched that Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor is part of the movie. I never saw him do a horror. He's done like this is not the kind of genre he's ever been part of, getting himself involved in. But I am excited for that. Most importantly, I'm excited because it is another Stephen King adaptation that's being adapted by our good man Mike Flanagan. That man is a freaking horror genius, and it's people like him that I'm super psyched is being involved in this genre today. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Gonzalez. I'm also super psyched for Dr. Sleep. That was my answer too. I can't wait. And that comes out next month. I'm surprised it didn't come out this month, in October for Halloween, but whatever. We'll just wait.
My birthday is coming up. Just saying.
Yes,
Oh,
it is.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Wait,
Okay.
Is it? I
November.
didn't know you had a birthday. I thought you were eternal.
Oh my god, eternal.
Oh my God.
Eternal. Oh man, this was fun, guys. Well, to everyone listening, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was our first annual Spook special. Close off this month. So hope you guys listen. If anything, I kind of wanted to take a poll. What did you guys think? Did you guys think in the very beginning of our conversation, me and Gonzalez were freaked out by Exorcist? My brother was freaked out by 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Izzy was freaked out by the first Child's Play. Was the
Yup,
first Child's Play?
First Child's Play.
Okay, who do you think should deserve to be more traumatized from those movies? And if you want, put in the comment section down below, what was your first horror movie that freaked you out as a
Yep.
child?
You could also follow us on Instagram at OSS Podcast.
This was great, guys. Tune in for next time's episode. This is from our side to yours. Stay blessed, America.